Elena Rybakina stands 6 feet tall and strikes a tennis ball with the force of a cruise missile. But in the heart of Rome, she was suddenly helpless against a teenager from a place where pro tennis is practically a myth. What Alex Eala pulled off at the Italian Open was not just a simple upset. It was a total glitch in the system that caught everyone off guard. How does a 19-year-old ranked way outside the top 150 push the reigning champion of Stuttgart and Brisbane to the very edge of a cliff? Most of the fans at the Foro Italico showed up expecting a routine win for the heavy favorite, but they walked away talking about a literal revolution. Just imagine standing across the net from a powerhouse who treats the baseline like a literal battlefield. Now imagine doing that as a kid from Manila with the weight of an entire nation resting on your shoulders. What happened on that red clay was a loud statement that flipped everything we thought we knew about the future of this sport. Rybakina stepped onto that court like a giant. She is a former Wimbledon champion who usually treats early rounds like a quick morning workout. But halfway through that first set, the world number 4 was not just sweating. She was scrambling for her life. She kept glancing at her coach with a look that said, "Who is this girl and why can I not hit through her?" The air felt thick with the smell of red clay and the growing shock of thousands. It was a display of pure, raw grit. Fans watched a 19-year-old from the Philippines refuse to blink while staring down one of the fastest serves in the history of the game. Every time Eala ripped a forehand deep into the corner, you could hear a collective gasp from the stands. This was not the plan. The script for this tournament was already finished, and it definitely did not include a young girl from Southeast Asia breaking down the defense of the world number 4. People were staring at their neighbors with wide eyes, wondering if what they were seeing was even real. The silence after Eala won those big points was actually louder than the cheers. It was the sound of a hierarchy being torn apart in real time. We are witnessing a moment that people will remember as the day the gatekeepers of tennis realized the world is much bigger than they imagined. It was the kind of performance that stops the tennis world in its tracks and makes everyone check their ranking apps to see if there was a typo. This was not a lucky afternoon or a bad day for a champion. It was the peak of a journey that started thousands of miles away from the bright lights. To understand how she actually pushed a titan to the brink and why the tennis world is suddenly terrified of her, we have to look back at the beginning. We have to go back to when nobody knew her name and the dream of Philippine tennis felt like a total impossibility. Success in this sport is not handed out equally. If you are born in Europe or the United States, the path is basically paved for you with world-class gyms, local legends to lead the way, and a support system built over 100 years. But for Alex, the road to Rome started thousands of miles away in Manila, a city where tennis courts are a luxury, and the idea of a pro world champion is usually seen as a fairy tale. Think about the mental load of being the first one to ever reach this high. She is not just playing for a check or a ranking, she is playing for the pride of over 100 million people who have been waiting for a hero in this sport since the beginning of time. This is what you call a heavy crown. When Alex was only 12, she made a choice that would break most adults. She packed one small suitcase and left the comfort of her house to move to Mallorca, Spain. She was heading to the Rafael Nadal Academy, a place where the best are turned into weapons. Imagine how lonely a kid feels in a foreign country, surrounded by a language she did not know, chasing a goal that everyone back home said was impossible. While her friends in Manila were in school or hanging out, Alex was spending 6 hours a day on red clay, hitting thousands of balls until her hands were literally bleeding. This was not some hobby, it was a mission for survival. The early results were incredible. She became the number 2 junior in the world. She won Grand Slam doubles titles in Australia and France. She even grabbed the US Open Junior Trophy in 2022. The Philippines went totally wild. Every paper and news station was filled with her face. They called her the future of the game. But there is a massive wall between being a junior star and surviving on the WTA tour. In juniors, you play against kids. In the pros, you play against grown women fighting for their careers and their mortgages. The jump was brutal. Between 2023 and early 2024, Alex was stuck in a loop of tiny tournaments in random cities. She was playing in events with tiny prize pools, sometimes in front of 10 people. The glamour of the Grand Slams felt a million miles away. She was ranked around 150. That spot where you are too good for the low levels but not elite enough for the big stage. This is the graveyard of tennis dreams. This is where most stars lose their fire and decide the struggle is not worth the price. The media back home started asking tough questions. People wondered if she had hit her ceiling. They whispered that she was too small or that she lacked the power to fight the top 10 giants. Every loss felt like a national disaster. Every drop in the rankings felt like she was letting people down. But Alex just kept showing up. She worked on her serve, adding more kick and more accuracy. She built her strength, training, until she could outlast players 6 inches taller than her. If you feel that fire in your chest when an underdog starts winning against the world, you are in the right place. Stay with me because the journey of the girl from Manila is just starting, and you want to see what happens when the dream meets the truth. Join this community so we can see the next chapter together. The base was set and the tools were ready, but tennis is played between the ears. As Rome got closer, Alex was entering a time of such high pressure and failure that it almost broke her spirit. The wall was right there, and it was taller than anyone thought. By 2023, the first wave of hype was fading. The headlines calling her a prodigy were replaced by a cold reality. The Pro Tour is a shark tank, and Alex was barely swimming. It is one thing to beat girls your own age, but it is a different universe when you face veterans who have been on tour since before you were born. The move from juniors to the WTA is where the best careers usually die. For Alex, this felt like an endless loop of sadness. She was traveling to small towns, playing in qualifiers just to get a few points. There were weeks where she would lose early and sit in a lonely hotel room, wondering if the sacrifices her family made were actually worth it. The stats were looking bad. In early 2023, her win rate crashed. Every time she played, the same insults followed her. People said she was too small for the modern game. They saw the power of stars like Sabalenka, and they decided a girl from the Philippines just did not have the body to survive. The comments online were even more brutal. Fans back home were losing patience, asking why she was not winning every week. They did not see the brutal practice or the pain of being so far from home. She was carrying a whole country, and the weight was starting to crush her. There was a moment in Portugal where things hit a breaking point. She lost a match she should have won, and she sat on that bench long after the fans left. The lights were going down, and the truth was sinking in. If she could not beat players ranked 200, how could she ever win on the big stage? Her ranking was stuck, and her confidence was gone. She was at a fork in the road. Accept being average or reinvent everything. The haters were getting louder. It looked like her story was just another sad tale of a junior star who could not make the leap. She was playing women who hit the ball 20% harder than anything she saw in juniors. Her defense was being torn apart by raw power. She was pushed 5 feet behind the line, just trying to stay alive in points. The physical pain was also growing. Small injuries to her shoulder and legs started popping up because her body was trying to produce more power than it was built for. In early 2024, she missed a spot in a major by the tiniest margin. It was a heartbreaker that left her ranking stuck in the 100s. This is the danger zone. If you stay here too long, you start to believe you belong here. You lose that spark. Alex saw her peers break into the top 50, and the gap felt like a canyon. She was doing everything right. The diet, the training, the recovery. But the results were not there. It felt like a glass ceiling was above her, and no matter how hard she hit, it would not break. Sponsors were getting quiet. Invites were drying up. She was back to the grind on dusty courts. This was the bottom. It was the moment she had to decide if she was a champion or just a talented kid who ran out of gas. The pressure was heavy, and the path was foggy. She questioned every choice since leaving Manila at age 12. Was it all for nothing? Was the dream just a lie? The mental exhaustion was as bad as the physical pain. She was alone in a world where only the scoreboard matters. Every flight felt like an exile. She was fighting a war on two sides, one against the elite on the court and one against the voice in her head telling her to quit. But as the world gave up on her, something changed deep inside. She realized she could not win by being a better version of everyone else. She had to be different. She had to find a weapon to close the gap. The change was coming. But first, she had to pass the hardest test of her life in Italy, the Italian Open, center court. Elena Rybakina walked out expecting a practice session. She is world number 4, a woman who wins with cold, clinical skill. Across from her was a 19-year-old who looked like she belonged in a classroom. Commentators were certain Rybakina would win in under an hour. For the first few games, they looked right. But then, something changed in the air of Rome. We usually think of upsets as one player having a bad day. We think the favorite just missed or lacked fire. But the twist is that Rybakina was not having a bad day. She was playing well. She hit her spots. She hit the ball with that same power that won her titles in Stuttgart. The real shock was not that Rybakina was failing. It was that Alex Eala was succeeding in ways that should have been impossible. She was not just defending. She was not just running to survive. Alex was doing something much more dangerous. She was using the power of Rybakina as a weapon. Every time a 100-mile-per-hour rocket came her way, Alex did not just block it. She stepped inside the line, took the ball early, and sent it back with a surgical touch that left the champion stuck. This was the weapon she found in those dark months. It was not about hitting harder, it was about being faster and smarter than physics should allow. Think about the guts it takes to step closer to a ball coming at you like a bullet. Most players back up. Alex did the opposite. She took away the time of Rybakina. She made the giant move her feet faster than she wanted. By the middle of the set, the energy was exploding. You could see the confusion on the face of Rybakina. She looked at her coaches, shaking her head, trying to figure out how this tiny girl was winning the rallies. I want to hear your take on this. When a young player finds a new gear, do you think they are ready for the top 10, or is it just luck? Tell me in the comments because I want to see if you noticed her position on the court before everyone else did. It is rare to see a tactical shift this clear, and I love hearing what you noticed during these high-stakes matches. The break happened during a long game at 3-all. Rybakina was serving at full speed. Alex did not care. She stood her ground and hit these crazy angled returns that pulled Rybakina off the court. It was a masterclass that the cameras almost missed. The crowd was suddenly on its feet for the teenager. The vibe in Rome became electric. Every winner from Alex felt like a win for anyone who has been told they are too small. When she finally broke serve, the silence was huge. It was the sound of a hierarchy falling. Rybakina is used to scaring people with her height. But Alex looked her right in the eye. No fear, just cold focus. She played like she had seen this match in her dreams 1,000 times. The turning point was not just a score. It was the moment the world realized the gap between the top 5 and the rest is not that wide. This was the moment we waited for. The struggle, the lonely rooms, the losses, they all led to this court. Alex was proving she belonged. But this was not just about grit. There was a secret to her movement that went beyond effort. If you look at the tracking data, something amazing shows up. Rome saw a different Alex Eala, and the numbers reveal a secret the cameras missed. If you check the shot data, Alex was not just defending, she was actually outrunning one of the fastest players on tour, covering 20% more ground than she did 6 months ago. This is the proof that her rise is no accident. We are talking about a physical change that usually takes years, but she did it in one off-season. Every time Rybakina tried for a winner, Eala was already there. This kind of coverage is usually for the top 10. It is the result of thousands of hours of drills in Mallorca, but speed is only half of it. The other half is the numbers that casual fans ignore. In tennis, the second serve win rate is the ultimate test of mental strength. Most kids get nervous and hit it safe. But in Rome, Eala won over 55% of those points. That is better than many veterans in the top 30. She was calm in a way a 19-year-old should not be. And her breakpoint saves? That was the best part. She faced a former world number 3 and won those points with aggressive tennis. She saved 7 out of 10, showing her nerves are made of steel. This momentum did not stop. Since then, she has been consistent. She is not losing early anymore. She is winning with the aura of an elite player. You can see it in how she walks and how she talks to the press. There is a quiet confidence there. The tour is noticing. Her ranking is finally moving up every week. For those of you still here is the real insight. After that match, Rafael Nadal himself reached out. People at the academy say Rafa was not just happy about the score, he was amazed by her discipline. He told her she found the one thing most players never find: the ability to make a champion feel uncomfortable. That is the ultimate praise. When the best clay player ever tells you your game is ready, you listen. The tools are there, the toughness is there, and the plan is finished. The data is clear. Alex Eala is not just a prospect. She is a real threat. She has proven she can run, hit, and think with the best. This was not just about 1 week in Italy. It was the start of a new age for Southeast Asian tennis. The impact is bigger than people realize. The world of tennis is shifting, and the girl from Manila is the one moving the needle. But as we look at her future, we have to ask, what does this mean for everyone else? Because the impact goes way beyond a tennis court. It is a ripple reaching places that have not seen a tennis ball in decades. Alex did not just win games. She won the respect of a continent. She proved your home does not define your limit, and that the Philippines is not just watching anymore. We asked how a teenager could push a titan like Rybakina. The answer is in the years of being alone in Mallorca, the hours of data, and the refusal to believe she was too small. Think about the next generation in Southeast Asia. For years, the region was ignored because it was too hard. Alex built a bridge. She showed you can take the long way through the dusty courts and still reach center court. She is the model for a new kind of tennis. Smart, precise, and fast enough to make power hitters look slow. It is a lesson for any outsider. You do not need to be a giant to beat one. You just need to be more resilient and ready to walk the long road. Alex Eala is the proof that center court belongs to anyone brave enough to take it. The giants of the WTA are on notice. The girl from Manila is not here for trophies. She is here for the titles. We are seeing a legend born who refuses to follow the old rules. Every time she plays, she rewrites what an underdog can do. Rome was just the start. The real question is not if she reaches the top 50, but how fast. We are watching history. If she keeps this up, the top 20 is a sure thing. This story is still being written. If you want to see the next chapter, join us. We are following every step because this is bigger than sport. It is proof that the impossible is just where you start. Where do you think she will be ranked by the end of the year? The world is watching, and so are we.